right, welcome into the Questionable Podcast. You got Scotty Questions here with Meko.
What's good, man?
And Gionne.
Hi.
Hey, how are you?
You sound very defeated for a guy who's a fan of a team that won a preseason game. You sound very just meh.
Speaking of that, Meko.
Let's go. I said the Lions won a game. Man, we going all the way, baby. We about to celebrate. Why? Because the Lions won a game.
That's right. They did win a game. Speaking of that,
I love how
had to play that.
I love how John has the most
drinking
white dad dance on.
I gotta get ready for it. It's gonna be a reality in 2 months. Less than 2 months.
What? Wait.
You got your New Balances all set and your fanny pack and all that?
Well, so Meko, Asics fit my foot shape better. So New Balances are Asics.
They're out.
New Balance are out. Asics are more for my narrow foot. So
Gotcha.
All right. Well, now that we're through that and through John's feet, again, welcome in. Please subscribe to the Questionable Podcast wherever you listen to podcasts. Also, please subscribe on our YouTube channel. And again, head to Questionable Tees for all the cool merch for Lions and Darren McCarty and some Red Wing stuff and more new items are coming, and they're here, everyone. They have arrived. They are here. We are not wearing them yet. Some people need to get their hands on them first, and those people will get them in the next, probably 4 or 5 days. So we're really excited about that. Keep your eyes and ears open for what is coming next. And yeah, having said that, we're going to recap episode 3 of the Hard Knocks with the Detroit Lions and talk about what stood out and what didn't here. Overall, I think the Hard Knocks was, it was good, right? It's Hard Knocks. It was good. It didn't have the same impact as before because, right, we've seen Dan Campbell do his speeches. We've met the cast of characters, if you will. We know kind of what to expect a little bit. So we've kind of reached that plateau of, okay, we know what they're going to do. But my biggest takeaway, from Hard Knocks was how the team is gelling, how the team is really coming together with each other and continuing to trust each other. I think, we all saw the practice, right? The practice with the Colts and how day 1 sucked and day 2 they came back, right? And they came back and shoved it down their throat, and then they did it again in the game. So I think again, I think we'll have more to dive into in the game and practices itself. But Hard Knocks was, maybe we wanted a little bit more. I thought I did love. Was that Big Sean they had playing? Was that Big Sean? The songs that were
really
playing.
Good. Yeah, they had a really good soundtrack for this episode.
They did. I'm guessing it's Big. I'm guessing it's Big Sean. It sounded like Big Sean. I could be wrong. Haven't looked it up yet. But to me, that was like as soon as they're like turn that on, I'm like, oh, okay, here they go.
Yeah, no, it was definitely Big Sean. I caught it at the end credits because I'm always curious on what songs they're picking and how many Detroit-based artists they're picking. So yeah, it was a good amount.
So that was cool, and it's like okay, and the Lions did turn it on. I thought that was fun to watch, and it wasn't even the starters that turned it on, right? It was the second stringers. Obviously, Aiden and the boys had, starting crew had some big plays, but again, my biggest takeaway from it was Jamal a distraction, right? Like in the biggest takeaway was like Jamal throwing the ball to the fans and Deuce being like, I told him not to throw the ball. And then Jamal goes ham in the practice. Now, at first I was like, good, okay, but then he kept doing it. John, Meko, what did you think about that? Did you think that was a distraction?
I don't think the stuff before practice was a distraction, right? Jamal does that here, and so he's doing the same stuff he does everywhere, which is he tries to engage with the fans. So him throwing the football into the stands is just what Jamal does. I thought Deuce's Deuce and Antoine Randall's conversation about it was hilarious because he's like, Deuce is just like, I've told him time and time again, like he's gonna like really clock somebody with this ball one of these times. And so I thought that was funny. But I think it's interesting that you point out, like, could it have been a distraction? Because when you think about like how dominant the Colts were on day one of practice against the Lions, it does feel like that, right? Like Jamal's doing so much trash talk. He's so in the face of all the other Colts players in these one-on-one drills, but then like they're getting dominated in like team settings, which I guess, yes, I think it was a little bit of a distraction. I do think because Deuce loses his voice. Like Deuce lost his voice in practice, yelling at them so much and trying to like break up arguments and break up fights. And then this is like the first time we've ever seen Dan Campbell like have to pull a player aside and be like, yo, like, all right, that's enough. Calm down.
And Dan Campbell said previous to this, like, if you get into a fight, you're out, right? So there's that. He said that, made a huge deal. And Jamal's the one who's causing kind of like creating the fight. And, you know, it's not like you're going to throw Jamal out. You know, they're close, but it was.
It wasn't a fight, to be said. Like, to be clear, it wasn't a fight, but yeah, he was definitely like I think Dan Campbell wants to keep the energy at a certain level, right? And I think he was kind of getting concerned that Jamal's taking the energy too high. Like, let's keep it at a point where it's still like respectful, like
manageable, not emotional, right? When you get emotional and it's just. And then what about the Twitter war between those two? Not Twitter war, but the back and forth. Did you hear that?
Yeah, I did see that. I was not a fan of the Colts player. I believe his name was like Zaire Williams or something like that.
Zaire Franklin.
Thank you, John. Zaire Franklin. Yeah, I didn't like it because you come off sensitive in that situation. Like, it's practice. You lost a rep. You won a rep. Like, let it go. Like, the fact that you feel like the need to like comment on a team like being shown in Hard Knocks and like feeling like you gotta like say something about it, just, I don't know, to me, you look a little soft.
And well, just motivation. Dan Campbell take it because he's like, oh, and good luck on your losing season again. It's like, well, maybe not.
Oh yeah, no, yeah, that goes immediately up on the chalkboard. Like, you write that down. Like, this is what people think.
Right. So that was John. What thoughts do you have about Jamal in that as a potential distraction or not?
Well, so I have not seen the episode yet. Par for the course of last week. But that's going to be going forward. I'm not going to be able to watch it before we do this. So I don't really have any thoughts as to whether or not it was a distraction. I didn't really get to see the behind the scenes look at it the way you did, but I will say I finally got around to reading that article, that interview that Jeremy Reisman posted. Meko, you had shared it days ago, and I finally got around to reading this interview with Jamal Williams about last season and this season and everything that happened. And it makes sense that he's getting so emotional. Last season, excuse me, he talked about how he had 3 deaths very, very close to him on top of this losing season, and how he literally cut his hair because he felt like he did not deserve his dreadlocks. And so he shaved his head and he's regrowing them. And so that's all part of this whole like death and rebirth sort of cycle that he feels like he's going through. And that emotional speech that he gave that episode 1 highlighted so well seems to be part and parcel of all of that. And I feel like maybe, he just like, this is a guy that just constantly runs at 11, and it kind of maybe did need to be reined in. Again, I have not seen the episode, but given the context of all that he went through last season, it really felt like an emotional, spiritual journey. And he really does talk about it. I mean, go read the interview. We can, I guess, post a link on our Instagram or something, or Twitter. But I mean, he really does describe it in mythological terms. He's a huge fan of anime, so he goes there with it, and he's like, this was a spiritual, there was so much death and rebirth, the cutting of his hair. And so it kind of makes sense that he took this so personally and kind of could not be reined in immediately from it. Whether or not it was a distraction, I can't say because I haven't seen the episode, but it makes sense that it got to him as much as it did.
Yeah, and the only reason I say that only reason I kind of agree with you, Scott, that it was a distraction is because of the way Deuce tears into the running backs after practice, which is like basically let him know, like, you guys got dominated. Like, we got whooped in every phase of today, which is like, I mean, then it's just like, well, then, like, yeah, like the energy that Jamal brought doesn't match the outcome. And so you want to be a little bit more balanced. You want to be a little more even keel. But Scott, I'll kind of like echo what you were saying earlier about like this episode of Hard Knocks did feel a little like, I don't want to say it was bad because I still like was glued to the TV, but it just didn't have those high moments. Like I would categorize it as mild. Like the last two episodes were very spicy. This was a very mild episode where there were some good things. Certain players got highlighted. I really liked like the in-depth spotlight that they put on Craig Reynolds and his relationship with his brother. Like that was really enlightening. It's a part of Craig Reynolds that I don't think any of us knew about prior to this episode.
Yes.
Knowing that he has a brother that's in prison and that's been in prison since he was like in 6th grade, I think he said. So like that's really, it's a cool in-depth moment to get to learn something about one of the Lions players. And then I also thought it was really cool to see like Easy's story and like a guy that's only playing football, like only been in the US for like 7 years.
7 years. Yep.
And is like trying to make an NFL roster. His wife was hilarious though. Like
he was great. She was.
Oh man. She's at the Colts game talking trash to the Colts fans. And her husband plays tackle. Like it's not like he plays like a position where he's going to be making plays. He plays tackle, but she's talking big trash. And so I almost want him to make the team just so that she can be at more Lions games. Like for no other reason than for her to be at Lions games.
And Meko and John, I know that you haven't watched a ton of Hard Knocks in general. So what I'm going to say though, to your point, Meko, this being mild, today's episode is like normal and actually somewhat spicy for like other Hard Knocks episodes, like seasons.
Gotcha.
So ours has been so spicy up front.
Yeah.
In this, that's why I was saying it could be the best Hard Knocks. Still, the first 2 episodes were amazing. Now this one is kind of par for the course, normal. They have their practices. I enjoyed seeing different footage from the practices, right? That was like better footage than I was seeing, on social of what happened and stuff like that. So it was nice to see that in a professional way. And, then they put the music to it and, Goff drives down and throws the touchdown and the team kind of comes back. And then we have the game. I mean, this is like normal Hard Knocks. Like, so even though for us it's mild, like like the Dallas Cowboys one, this would have been the highlight, right? Like, because episode 1 is them showing up, rolling up in their cars, showing, all the stuff, having a couple meetings, some jokes, meeting rooms, couple practices. And then episode 3 is like, okay, here comes the game. But ours has been so like front loaded with Dan Campbell and the coaches. You're like, right, we've met all these characters, we know the characters, and now we're seeing how the story plays out. So it's a little bit of a plateau for now, but I think like we've heard the coachless practice, right? So that'll be next week, and I think it'll continue to move kind of hopefully like the team. My biggest takeaway is this team really feels like a team. And to be in the locker room, and I know you could say that, but a lot of things on Hard Knocks, you can, the team, there's parts of the team that, that all of this, like the offense is a team, the defense is a team. This is a whole unit moving together in one direction. And I love what Deuce said. Are we lions? Or are we lions? We hunt, like that was like, okay. Like that was
because his exact quote is that like, yo, like we basically like dominated them yesterday.
Right.
He's like, so they're probably gonna change some stuff up to try and get us back. He said, but who cares? He's like, we're lions. We hunt. And it's just like, it's the perfect like pregame like speech. So there have like, that's one thing at least that's been consistent about these episodes is like there's at least one good soundbite from one of the coaches. I just think like it missed a couple things. I think by highlighting some of the players that they highlighted, like I think again, Easy's wife was amazing and hearing his story was great, but they also focused on Khalil Pimpleton, and part of that made it feel like, yo, you guys are focusing on two guys that like after watching 2 preseason games, I feel very confident in saying like neither of those guys are making the team.
Well, that's why they do it. They focus on them because if they're not, then they show them go in the office and they get cut. We're emotionally connected, and then that's the journey. That's kind of how they do it.
But did you feel emotionally connected to either of those players in this episode?
No. But I'm saying we learned more about them. We didn't learn about Kennedy.
I'm sure. I'm just asking the question. Like, did you feel more emotionally connected? Like
to Easy, yes, not to Pimpleton, because Easy was funny with Hutchinson in the ice bath, like in like and learning about that story. So I learned about him there. I didn't know about him until then, and that story about like you went to
because I mean, to your point, if they cut Craig Reynolds after this episode, I'd be like, how the hell do you cut that guy? Like, I'm emotionally invested in Craig Reynolds at this point. But I wouldn't say I was emotionally connected for either of the other 2 players.
Though. So they're picking, so they've given us 3, right? We learned about today.
Mm-hmm.
They're going to cut. I mean, and they probably have a little insight from the coaches because they have to make a little drama with it. I mean, they might cut all 3. They might keep 1. They might, so that's part of what they do, and part of what Hard Knocks is showing that meeting and that hard conversation Dan's going to have with one of these guys, right? Yeah. So that's really what they're building to. Like that's a big part of Hard Knocks that's why they showed us Dan's office for the first time, right? They're teasing where this is going to happen.
Before we kind of transition away from Hard Knocks, I was going to say the only like nugget of information that was new that we haven't kind of like really heard and we probably were assuming and some people could kind of guess was that like Kelvin Shepherd basically came out and said Alex Anzalone's making the team. He flat out told the linebacker.
And he said Rodrigo's a starter.
Well, he said like he's still competing for the will linebacker's position, right? Like he's got a good hold of it, but you're still competing. That's why he still played. But he told him like, yo, don't complain about your 20 snaps. You get 20 snaps, you get out. And so this episode at least ironed that out, which is that Alex Anzalone, Derek Barnes, and Malcolm Rodriguez are locks.
And sorry, go ahead. And the other what?
The other linebackers are still fighting for position.
So, and then John, you'll like this. I didn't know this either. And he goes, Rodrigo, when I say you're done, you're done. Because I guess last game he ran back out like to go play. And he's like, he saw him out there. He goes, what are you doing? He goes, oh, I thought you said I'd go back. He goes, no, get off the field. Whoa. Like Rodrigo is like so. And I was so impressed in watching him take on 2 Colts at a time and consistently getting and shedding them both. Like it slowed him down, but he still got through. Like 2, he was getting double teamed. That dude is strong. He is a beast. And then he flipped. Who did he flip? A lineman. Yeah. He flipped him.
Yeah.
And he talks about it too. He teases it with Calvin. He goes, what you can do when a guy does like this? He goes, I'm gonna go like this, I'm gonna flip. And he literally does it then and like, a little bit later. And it's like, okay, this dude is just strong, like super strong. And is smiling about being able to hit people really, really hard. He's fun to watch, man. It's fun to watch him play.
Whew. But yeah, we can go ahead and transition into the Lions Colts preseason game. I mean, I think we can kind of talk about this in the same context that we talked about last week, which is again, it's a preseason game. We don't want to like go crazy with it, but I mean, was there anything from this game that you guys saw that like either confirmed something or has something still in question, or something that you saw that you believe is going to translate to the season from this game?
Gionne,
you want to start with this since you did watch this?
Yes, I did watch it. Yeah. And I paid close attention. Well, one thing that is
Sorry, what you were saying?
That is a little disappointing. It really seems like Jayshon Cornell is bound for the dustbin of the Lions. It doesn't seem like he's going to make it. My prediction was wrong. I will own up to that. I will eat my crow. But one thing that did look really good is, again, running back depth. It just, we have not seen this in so long. I mean, Reggie Bush and Joique Bell were like the last time we had good running backs, but Reggie Bush kept getting injured. Joique Bell, obviously with the concussion, just devastating. But then who replaced them? Like no one. But now it feels like, if Jamal Williams or DeAndre Swift goes down, Reynolds comes in, and we're not losing that much of a step with Reynolds coming in. And then Justin Jackson, he looks really good. I honestly think Jamar Jefferson's the odd man out. Justin Jackson, what's that?
Iggy.
So it really seems like for those guys, they really need versatility. And Igwebuike definitely has more versatility. I kept hearing him saying 4-phase special team. Meko, what does that mean? Do you know? I kept reading that phrase, 4-phase special teams.
I have no idea what the hell that means.
I was like all over Predator Detroit. I was all over these analyses and seeing who these bubble players were. I guess I could have just opened up a new tab and did a Google search, but I didn't. So that was me not doing my diligence. But I kept hearing this phrase thrown around about Igwebuike that is his shot to make the team, and that's probably why he will make it over some other guys that you might have thought, maybe even Justin Jackson, because maybe he can play multiple positions on special teams. I don't know. Regardless,
the 4 phases of special teams are kickoff, punts, field goal attempts, and extra point attempts.
So, okay, there you go. So I guess he plays on all of those.
Yep.
And that's why he's probably going to make it.
Yep. The kickoff unit, the punting unit, the punt return, and kickoff return unit.
Okay. There you go.
He's on all the units.
You needed the more sound effect of the star going over the
beating rainbow.
But no. So running back depth was confirmed. The O-line is, even the backups. As a unit, mildish, like they're good, but they're not, stars. But that said, you slot one of those guys in between Frank Ragnow and Taylor Decker, or Frank Ragnow and Penei Sewell, or next to who we have on starters. Correct. And again, same like with the running backs, you're losing something, but you're only losing like a step. It's tough to say because that is absolutely a top 3 unit in the NFL. Yeah. So those are big shoes to fill. And obviously, they're not as good, but Evan Brown, it really seems Tommy Kramer. They're going to be very, very solid depth. So, and my biggest takeaway, last thing I'll say, was about a few weeks ago, I talked about the beauty of special teams is if this game is a battle, then special teams gets to decide where that battle is fought. And I think that's a very good way to think about it, but also the run game. We heard Dan Campbell, the first thing, we got to establish the run. We established the run. We've heard that before. And you talk about that, or coaches talk about that as being so primary. And it had always confused me, especially in the modern NFL offense, where you have these mobile quarterbacks who can extend the play and throw the ball, and it's a passer's league now, and that style of offense is obsolete, and blah blah blah. All those knocks against it. But what we saw this game was something that you can do with the run game that you can't do with anything else, and is control the clock. And that added dimension of the game built into the structure of the game. Like we were talking about, these one-on-one drills favor the offense. And in NFL, the offense kind of does have a natural advantage over the defense, just the way the game is structured. But I think Dan Campbell is like, well, there's also a built-in structure in the game. And it's that if you run the ball well, you can eat the hell out of the clock and you can just absolutely control the game. And now I see it. And now I feel like I get it. And again, you can probably tell by the way I'm talking about this now, I never played football. So I just never understood that aspect of the game, and that's something that really crystallized with this game, and that was my main takeaway.
And John, I'm just going to add to that. Meko, you don't mind if I jump in here, do you?
No, go ahead.
So I think also one person I want to talk about is Logan Stenberg. Also, he just in regards to Pro Football Focus top rated offense and defense performers and worst rated offense and defense. I'm going to run through those real quick, Meko, before you go. And John, and what's funny is in these, this isn't the end all be all, and like some of the ones that say are the worst performers, I would disagree with. Now, this is statistics, right? So it's not, to me, what jumps off the screen, right? So to me, watching it, I would not have guessed some of these. So I'm just going to run through these real quick, if that's okay. Do you guys care?
Go for it.
Logan Stenberg was the top rated offensive performer with an 82.5. Right guard Tommy Kramer had an 82. John, so yep, you're on that. Running back Justin Jackson had 81.5. Tight end Derek Deese Jr. had an 81.2. And then QB Tim Boyle had a 78.3. Now, the worst offensive players per this rating and system was left tackle Kendall Lamb, left guard Darren Paulo, running back Jamar Jefferson, and then running back Craig Reynolds and wide receiver Maurice Alexander. Now, Alexander crushed right in the return game, right? But crushed like he had. I mean, that was fun to watch.
It was electric. Yeah,
he got some. Absolutely. He got some great blocks, right? Didn't Barnes have an amazing block for him in that big run?
And Craig Reynolds.
And Craig Reynolds, right? So now those guys I don't think are graded for that. They were being graded for running back and not what they're doing. But to me, this is interesting, right? These players that we're talking about, like Reynolds and Alexander, they do more for the team than just that. So these ratings to me don't mean as much. Yeah, for the one, for wide receiver, Alexander didn't do much, but he gave us the best, to John's point, right? But where our field position was, that is where we were able to fight the battle and then win, right? Those little things, right, got us to at least have them to have to go for two at the end of the game. And so I'm going to go through defense real quick. Top defensive players was Kaminsky, 82.6, Demetrius Taylor, 80, Eric Banks, 79.3, Austin Bryant, 78, and Derek Barnes with a 77.2. So Austin Bryant, yes, I thought absolutely he stood out to me. Yeah. Derek Barnes, he showed up. He showed up, right? They want to see, is he 55? Barnes 55?
Yep.
Yeah. They want to see 55. I want to see, and Dan Campbell said, we saw 55.
Saw 5.5.
Yeah. And so that was good, right? We needed to see those guys kind of have a good game, and they did. Bryant was all over. Didn't he have a sack? Didn't Bryant have a sack?
Yeah,
tackle for loss that could have been like a half sack, actually, right?
Yeah, Austin Bryant was a man on a mission in this game, and he's a guy that is probably going to be called upon with, the Oquaras both kind of dealing with injuries, and just as a rotation guy behind Hutch and Charles Harris. So I think we need to get used to seeing more of Austin Bryant this year.
Yep. And then
hold on.
Yep, go ahead.
To tack on to that, the best part of my favorite part of that, Austin Bryant playing so well, was that it wasn't, you hadn't really heard much about him, and then he had this like monster game and he flashed. He had two incredibly solid days. No one had a good day that first game against the Colts. I'm going to talk about that later as to why, and I think Dan Campbell really told us why in his press conference. But the day after that and the day after that, Austin Bryant got three. You can't tackle the quarterback, so they're sacks. But he got 3 sacks in one day, and the next day dominated again, and then came out in the game and dominated in the game. So that is very encouraging. It's because it wasn't just a one-off. He was just playing on his mind on this day. Like the stars aligned. It really seems like he's putting together an incredibly powerful preseason. And I was reading an article about him. He's just been dealing with injury after injury, and he had said that this is really he's in his 4th year now. But last offseason was the first offseason where he was healthy the entire offseason. And then he I think there was like a little injury hiccup during the season, but it was nothing major. And then this is his second fully healthy off season. He just, again, like with Deshaun Elliott, who's battled injury concerns his entire career, he said, this is the first time where he feels like my body is finally at a place where I feel like I can handle this. And it's very, very exciting because, as I've been saying, with Onwuzurike out and Pascal out, I was very concerned. That was another one of my big takeaways. I'm going to sneak it in here. Was with Kaminsky and with Kaminsky and Austin Bryant and Demetrius Taylor, my concerns about Onwuzurike and Pascal are somewhat alleviated for the same reason that they're with the O-line depth. There's just we actually have serviceable depth, and it's very exciting to see. Like, this is exactly what I wanted to see from the preseason that I do think will carry over into the regular season, because, as we said, they put Pascal on PUP or NFI today, didn't they? No, they did. Okay, great.
Yeah,
I'm not a liar.
They did. Yeah, you're not. And in Hard Knocks, they do address this a little bit before they go to Indianapolis. Deuce and Dan are in his office, and they're just like, feel pretty good. Just like, yeah, feel pretty good too. Like, there's not a lot of you know what I mean? There's not a lot of question marks, and they're feeling good that they've kind of loaded up the team. Let's be real, right? We got some backup this year because we're going to need it. It's the NFL. People get injured. So let me wrap up here with the worst defensive players of the day. Now, this is the rating. This is the PFF rating here. So the worst 5, cornerback Mark Gilbert, 29.9. Kirby Joseph, 39.8. Chris Board, 41.1. Chase Lucas, 47.2. And Jared Davis, 48.7. Now, they showed a lot of Chase Lucas in Hard Knocks, and he was talking some trash.
Chase Lucas has that dog in him. I love Chase Lucas.
Me too.
After this episode, Chase Lucas Chase Lucas needs to be on the team.
Is he? I think he's got some potential leadership skills too. If he can channel that, like, if he can channel it, I mean, he's a communicator, right? Or what?
Or juice. Like, even if he's not a captain or somebody that you would consider a leader on that defense, like you said, yeah, he's communicating, and he just brings that intensity. He calls 12 on the Colts a little boy like so many times. He's like, you a little boy, you a little boy,
you a toddler. Yeah, he calls him a toddler. Yeah,
and it's man,
it's a little bit like Jamal. It's a little Jamal Williams ish, right? Like just going at people. And so anyway, that was interesting. And what about Jared Davis?
I think I have more questions about like the low graded defensive players than I do about the offensive ones. The offensive ones I typically I kind of agree with. The defensive ones are a little bit of a mixed bag. Kirby Joseph, Chris Board, and Jared Davis, to be specific, I mean, did fine. But I think, again, because of this, however this is graded, Kirby Joseph had a rough day, but a lot of that's communication and, corners not communicating well with the safeties.
They had some miscommunication between that, and they're probably they're putting it on Kirby, right? And so he's getting dinged for the miscommunication. Especially on that touchdown, right? Where they crossed and then nobody went. The deep route there.
Yeah, that's a situation where the corner should have carried that.
So
go ahead. Kirby Joseph has we fans, we just need to remember the context that Kirby Joseph is operating. He's only played one season of safety. He was drafted as a developmental project. Now, granted, you can debate whether or not you pick a completely developmental project with only one season at that position under his belt where he was drafted, but they believe in his athleticism. They believe in his ball hawk skills, and he's gonna have games like this. This is literally his second time playing in an NFL game against an opposing team. And at a position he literally only played one season of in college. So, I'm not too concerned about it. I think next season, if he still looks like this, then it's going to be an issue. But right now,
it's all about development for Kirby.
Yeah.
And again, the encouraging signs, at least when you look at the tape, is that like Kirby is at least around the ball. He's at least trying to be in the mix of the play. What he needs to work on is timing and understanding where he needs to be on the field so that he can disrupt plays instead of just making the tackle. And that's the next step of his development. So, unfortunately, Kirby Joseph is going to be compared to a lot of those safeties that were drafted around him or even later than him. And that's just the luck of the draw, right? Like, you just kind of have to deal with it. You got to roll with the punches. But, Scott, was there anything else before I jump into what kind of stood out to me from the game, or was there anything else that you
No, that was it. I wrapped up on that. That was it. I just wanted to go through that because I know that other a lot of people are talking about this rating, so I wanted to throw that in just because I don't think that it's a how's that drink, John? Is it good?
It's good. Like that gulp was deep, man.
Oh, I should have muted myself. Sorry. Well, also just the microphone's like right here at my throat.
No, I get it, man. It was just a strong gulp. I was gonna keep going. I was gonna breathe past it.
I had to do it, man. The listeners are gonna be like, "What is happening over there?"
Oh man,
it was a strong. For those that don't know, John has good vocals too. He's a singer,
so
backup singer, but yes.
Like, I can only sing in the crowd, like thousands of people around. But,
so wait a minute, Meko. No, we're good. Go ahead.
So yeah, for me, I mean, I'm not going to spend too much time rehashing what John spoke about because that's really one of the main things that stuck out to me that was confirmed to me from this game is that the O-line depth and the running back depth is good.
Mm-hmm.
Those are going to be some tough cuts for those two positions. Scott, you pointed out the guys that graded well, and those are the guys that I think stood out really, really well. Tommy Kramer, Logan Stenberg, Evan Brown, those guys are stout in the middle. Dan Skipper played really well on the edge at one of the tackle spots, and then Craig Reynolds and Justin Jackson were really, really good. And so was Godwin. Godwin at Igwe was really good as well. In his limited snaps. So they're gonna have some tough decisions to make at running back. I'm probably gonna be on the fence on this one. Like, I don't know how many people are probably gonna be rocking with me on this take. I don't want the Lions to carry 4 running backs this year. I would much rather than carry 3. I think you have a strong 3 with DeAndre, Jamal, and Craig. I do not think you need a 4th.
Come on, Craig.
I don't. I know. Go ahead.
Now, are you saying that because Igwebuike can also fill in for running back if need be? Or are you just straight up, even if Igwebuike couldn't, you're fine with going 3?
I'm fine with going 3. And because of the strength of this offensive line, it's kind of giving me Dallas Cowboy vibes back in the day when like it was like literally just throw a guy back there and they can produce. That's kind of the vibe I have right now.
Oh, because the O-line will be strong. It is strong, and the backups, they had a great day. They pushed the Colts around.
Yeah. And so I know Iggy has the special teams cable, and that will probably what's going to get him on the team as the 4th running back.
Yeah.
But I'm kind of digging Maurice Alexander for kickoff returns, and he's so electric that I'm just like, I don't know if you let that guy go because that guy gets picked up. That guy hits the waiver wire, he gets picked up. And I don't know if you can risk, I don't know if I would risk letting that guy go and him getting claimed. I think you could cut Iggy and him not get picked up on the waiver wire, and you can stick him on the practice squad. That's my belief. So, but those two positions, offensive line, running backs, confirm to me that they're stout, that the depth is there, that again, we're still hoping that everyone is going to stay as healthy as possible, but you feel good about, like John was pointing out, if one guy goes down or if he needs to miss a game or needs to miss 2 or 3, there's probably a serviceable backup on the offensive line or in the running back room that can be serviceable for those couple of weeks. The thing that I do still have questions on, as dominant as the defense was against the Colts, that was not what they were against the Falcons. And I get that they're two different styles of teams. They had to deal with a couple of different things, more mobile quarterbacks against Atlanta, not as mobile quarterbacks against Colts. But it's really tough until I see it happen consistently. Until I see the defense stop the run consistently the way they did against the Colts, until I start to see those types of plays being broken up and them kind of imposing their will, doing what AG has been talking about, being physical and putting a level of fear in an offense, I need to see that consistently. And I think they'll have a good opportunity and a good test against Pittsburgh this week, because that offense is going to be electric. And so I think that question gets answered for me. Is this defense legit or not is going to get answered for me this week.
Well, and from what I heard, they've agreed to play the starters in the entire first half, correct?
Yeah.
Half or quarter?
First half.
Oh, wow. Okay, yes, I did not hear that.
Yeah, it should be a really good, hopefully it should be a really good game.
Yeah. But not Goff.
Except for Goff.
I heard that, yeah.
Correct.
I don't know how I feel about that. Like, I understand the logic.
Okay, let's talk about that real quick. Yeah. So Goff not playing. So all starters are playing except for Goff. Meko, start with this. What do you think then, John? And I'll wrap. I'm curious on this because I thought one way, and now I'm thinking a separate way after kind of digesting. So Meko.
Yeah. So like I was saying, logically I understand the thought process that Dan is having. You don't want to risk losing your starting quarterback on a sack, on something stupid, and then your season's tanked before you even get to play week 1 against the Eagles. I get it. However, to say that Jared Goff doesn't need those snaps is a hard pill for me to swallow. Because if everybody else is starting, if the entire starting O-line is going to be there, if the starting running backs are going to be there, if all the starting receivers are going to be there, I don't see why Jared Goff doesn't need that work with those guys still in in-game situations. And I didn't get to read the whole breakdown of practice today. And again, it's one practice, but supposedly he had a tough day today in practice against, the Lions defense. So it's one of those things where I still think he needs reps. I still think he needs to continue to build that chemistry against a defense that is actively trying to prevent him from having success. But Dan's already made his decision. It's just I don't know if I completely rock with it or agree with it.
Okay, yeah, I am mostly in agreement there. I would like to see the opening drive, good or bad, opening drive, boom, then he's done. Because that's what he basically had against the Falcons, right? And it was so good that they're like, yeah, you've confirmed what we've been seeing. Take a seat. Now, my thought was that was why they didn't play the starters against the Colts, is because through the joint practice, they saw enough of what they needed to see there in those joint practices that they felt like didn't need that confirmation in the actual game, and they don't get that with the Steelers. So, but that only maybe then solidifies, give them an opening drive.
I just think it's a little weird because if you're saying that everybody else needs that, everybody else, all the other starters need this.
You tell me DeAndre Swift, come on, right? If there was one other person where you'd be like, it's Goff and Swift are not playing,
we don't need you guys to play.
Then it would
play. Maybe DeAndre does it, but
yeah,
Deuce came out today and said that it's good for the running backs to get that contact though. So
I think so. So, may I go, Gionne?
Yeah. You don't need my permission, Scott.
Oh, well, I was asking anyway. So I agree with both of you, but what I think, so how good is the Steelers defense?
Really good.
I actually don't know.
Yeah, no, they're good. Yeah, right. So TJ Watt, right, coming after Goff. I just don't, in my opinion, I think it is smart I was like, what the heck? This is dumb. This is stupid. I don't get it. Why just him? Because we need him for the season, right? We got to win some games, and we got to have Goff to win those games. So you can't risk against a top 5, top 3,
top 10,
like 10, top 10,
top 5,
10. I feel like they came out with defense rankings a little while ago, and I think the top 10.
Top 10. Anyway, TJ can get after. So I just don't need to risk it with those guys coming, warming up, practice. You know what I mean? Like I kind of get it. And let's put Blau in to start, and he can run around, and let's see what he can do. And I think this also just adds to that, right? Like we've talked about, this QB battle is going to come down to the wire, because in this past game, Blau looked good, but Boyle's numbers were better, right? Like, again, we're looking at this. Like,
Blau looked okay. Like,
he looked okay.
But because he can run, he just kind of, to me, he pops like a little bit more. He's a little bit more mobile, so he pops off the screen a little bit. But Boyle was dropping some dimes, and he threw for more yards, and he missed a wide open touchdown, though, right? So we're like, what are we doing here?
I think that cuts to the heart of the whole debate of Blau versus Boyle. Is like Boyle is the more talented quarterback. I think that's what's frustrating about this whole situation, is that Boyle is better. He is more talented, but he's
physically gifted.
He's far more inconsistent.
Yeah.
And on one of Dan Campbell's opening press conferences of this, like during OTAs, I think he's like, just give me consistent. We can work with consistent. We can game plan around consistent.
Right.
Like, and I honestly think that's what edges it out. Even if Boyle maybe has a better game, but still has those same issues, I don't know. Like I have a hard time giving it to Boyle over Blau. That's just based on that, of like, because he'll drop those dimes, but then he'll let one sail, and he has, God bless him, zero pocket awareness. There was one play where the Colts, because
zero, but low.
No one's like hiding no one's really hiding their packages, right? Even I, like, again, I never played football. I'm not really I'm not knowledgeable about the X's and O's. The Colts put an extra linebacker on the line, and I was like, oh, that guy's blitzing, and Boyle just missed it, and just like boom, and like he blew up the line, and Boyle got sacked, and it's like that kind of stuff that Blau, I think, either would have recognized it, or he would have had the legs to, jimmy out of it and at least throw it away or something and not take the sack. So I think you have a more talented guy, but he's inconsistent with far less pocket awareness than the other guy. And I think that's what makes this decision so tough.
Well, I think
it doesn't make it all that tough.
Can we jump in before I forget, okay. Meko? Yeah. I'm going to forget and so to that point, John, what I'm saying and why Goff is not playing in the first half and everybody's playing starters. This is the final exam for Blau versus Boyle, and they're going to play one in one quarter and one in the other, and it's going to be starters. And so and now maybe they won't, but if I'm Dan Campbell, I'm going to give him one, right? all right, Blau go first, and then Boyle, and against the Steelers starters, and at that point, there's your decision. He doesn't have to make it; they made it for him, right? So then it's not Dan just being like, wow, I don't know what to do here. No, I mean that would be the tail of the tape right there. So now I don't know if they're going to do it, but to me, that's pretty logical. And Dan seems like a guy that's putting things in place that lets the players decide. And right there, whoever plays better, okay, let's go. It's just a theory.
What I was going to say is the thing that has become more apparent to me, though. So I get everything you're saying, John, about Blau being more consistent with his throws, but I think he's also been more consistent with his mistakes.
Totally fair.
This is the second week where he's fumbled, and I don't care if you want to put it on Justin. I don't know whose fault it is, but Blau gets credited with the fumble. So that's two fumbles in a row, and he threw a pick. There's a certain level of consistency that I see, and once he gets rattled, it's hard. It's hard for him to shake his mistakes because I think he knows he's in a quarterback battle. The one thing that I can say about Tim Boyle don't care. Tim Boyle is going to go out there and sling that rock. He will sail a pass and be like, whatever, dude. I'm gonna throw a dime the next one.
Next down. Yeah. Totally.
So I'm almost leaning more the other way, where I would rather have the more consistently stable-minded quarterback. The guy who can shake off the mistake and be like, screw it, next series. Right? I think, John, you and I were texting about this. Like, he had the fumble, and it took him like 2 series to like get it under control. For David Blau, talking about David Blau, it took him like a series or 2 series to get it under control again, to where he started moving the offense and them starting to get in a rhythm again. Like, you can't have that. In the event that he has to play for Jared Goff, you got to be able to make a mistake and let it happen and then move on to the next play.
That said, I mean, because I completely agree with everything. And again, like, this is a tough call. Like, this is a really tough decision. I'm glad I don't have to make it, because if you look at the offense didn't punt with David Blau under center. They punted multiple times with Boyle. And I think that's like, just looking at the overall, like the big picture, I think that's pretty valuable too. I mean, yeah, they didn't have to punt. You know, they were always either field goals or touchdowns with Blau, or a turnover. But
they also did convert some 4th downs, right?
That's true.
They did get on some 4th downs, and they ran for it. They went for it on 4th down.
I will say, I do want to say, Meko sent this literally exactly 30 minutes ago, and I want to, I aired. Joik Bell was not the one with the concussions. That was Javid Best. I had my JB running back. I had my JB RBs mixed up a little bit. So yeah, he sent that in the chat as we're talking. So Javid Best, my apologies. Yeah, come get me, lock me up. But
I just know the people that are gonna be watching this, they're gonna be like, that wasn't Joik Bell.
Yeah, I should have said it. I should have addressed this sooner, but I kept forgetting because I got so excited.
I didn't want to cut you off. You were on a roll.
Yeah, I don't even remember what I was saying. I think that was it. I mean, it's a great battle, and I think, you know, we are going to be better off for the intensity of it, and hopefully Boyle can, I don't know, just become more consistent, I guess.
Well, we're going to find out. And I think that's part of the plan, right? I do think that Dan and Deuce have a plan in regards to this, the reason why they got the Steelers to agree to it. I don't know if things change, what changes, right, this week, depending on if somebody gets dinged up, right, if Swift, you know, he may not, we'll see. We don't know. But I think this is a great opportunity for them to get a final comparison between Blau and Boyle, right, against starters, against the Steelers. So top 10 defense, I think that's something to watch for.
We're all over the map today, but it's great because we didn't have any notes, so we're shooting from the hip. Another great stat that just came to mind about the defense. The Indianapolis Colts did not rush for a first down in the entire game. They did not pick up a first down from the ground the entire game. I think that's amazing. You love to see it. And in the first half, I don't have stats in the second. In the first half, the Lions rushed 99 yards. The Colts rushed 11. And I mean, they absolutely shut the run down. Now,
Jonathan Taylor wasn't running, but
I mean, but also our starting defense wasn't in there.
I know.
But yes, point taken though. Absolutely point taken. But you love to see it, and I think that is one thing that is going to carry over to the season, because that has been a point of emphasis with this whole coaching staff: is establish the run, stop the run. And I think for the point,
so you think that will translate over run defense?
Well,
I hope so.
I think so. With the
Now you don't sound as confident. You said it real confident the first time.
Well, that's because I didn't have someone who knows more than me about this stuff put me to the question like immediately.
I don't know more. Listen, I'm in the same boat you are, dude.
Well, I will say I think dude, Rodrigo is a bona fide steal. I honestly don't think it's overreaching.
He's the Amon-Ra of this draft.
I don't think it's overreaching to already say that. I mean, you've got people who don't even like analysts who don't even analyze the Lions tweeting, Jesus Christ, I just watched tape on Malcolm Rodriguez and he is like the definition of textbook. Like, this is how you teach tackling. Like, textbook tackle. Absolutely. From low, just everything about his game is perfect. And that's exactly what Dan Campbell said. If you're undersized, you just have to be perfect. And it really looks like Malcolm Rodriguez. Technique is perfect, consistently perfect. So, yeah, the starters are Alex Anzalone and Malcolm Rodriguez. And it just seems... So between him and Aiden Hutchinson was graded even higher on run defense, right, than pass defense. And Aleem McNeil, hopefully Onwuzurike, Demetrius Taylor, like that's a strength of his. So hopefully Kirby Joseph, the one thing I can say for him is I love the way he hits. Like, absolutely right. His timing needs to work, but when he connects with a guy, amazing.
Yeah. It's fantastic. And what about the Smith hit too? Like Smith
lit that dude up.
Now, and I saw that, and I'm watching this. So I saw it in the game, and then I saw it in Hard Knocks. I'm like, and then like Rodrigo, I'm like, this is like the new Lions. Like, we hit hard. Like,
yes,
we like to hit. We like contact. We're gonna be the first to contact. The running backs are running harder. They're running more. You know, they're trying to stiff arm like Marshawn Lynch after Deuce screamed at him episode 1. I mean, they're trying for extra yards. They're not running out of bounds. They're trying to hit you. We're going like this is a making of hopefully a hard nosed, hand in the dirt. We're gonna gritty tea. Yeah, we're gonna hit you in the face. And we're going to kick you while you're down.
We don't care if you have one ass cheek and 3 toes. One ass cheek and 3 toes. We will kick your ass.
3 toes. We're going to bite your kneecap off.
So, Meko, so you don't think that the stopping the run is going to translate?
It's a question. It's still a question.
Okay, it's a question.
I got to see it consistently because you got ran over by the Falcons.
Yeah.
You didn't against the Colts. Great. Show it against the Steelers because now you get to go against Najee Harris.
Yeah.
Right. You got to go against that offensive line and that running back. If you do it against them, then I feel a little more confident. Now I feel a little bit better when you go into Pittsburgh or Philly, or when Philly comes here and you play them. Now, how you contain Jalen Hurts, that would be like
yikes, really, especially after Mariota Ritter. That's going to be tough.
Yeah, but it wasn't our starters, right?
It was at first.
Mariota ran on our starters.
Yeah, it was at first. Granted, they kept saying that we didn't have a QB spy, which I don't know, how much that means, but like,
it
still,
means a lot.
It means a lot.
It means a lot because all right, this is going back a week, but if you remember back in that game, they sent a lot of linebacker blitzes, right? Just trying to create pressure, just trying to get to the quarterback. What you would normally have in that situation, if you have a mobile quarterback, a guy can run, you may have somebody spying on the back end that's just like everybody else is blitzing. Everybody else is trying to get to the quarterback. That one guy is watching the quarterback, waiting for him to try to break contain so that he can at least minimize any type of rushing yards.
Okay.
So in a situation like Jalen Hurts, they will definitely have a spy on Jalen Hurts.
Say, Rodrigo, go kill Jalen Hurts, and then have someone else spy.
Well, I mean, Rodrigo was fast too. I mean,
Rodrigo would likely be. Yeah, I was gonna say Rodrigo might be the spy.
That's why because he's so fast, and it's gonna take Rodrigo to get Jalen Hurts down. I mean, Jalen Hurts isn't small.
No, Well, and I feel like it, from everything Shepard has said, Rodrigo also has the brains that Rodrigo's not going to bite on anything, because I mean, Jalen Hurts is good enough. He's gonna like who was it that did that? Was that Blau with the pump fake that threw off that defender enough that he was able to run for like an extra 5 yards or so?
Yes, it was.
Like, I mean, great plays are great plays, but I feel like Rodrigo's not going to bite on certain fakes.
He might one time, but he won't a second time, right?
I was going to say first
game. Great way to
jitters.
say it, yeah.
Yeah, it's going to be first game jitters, and so I think at some point in time we are going to have to try to find some way of corralling the expectations for Rodrigo, because I do think, like, I'm not saying it's getting out of hand, but
it's getting pretty pumped up.
It's getting pretty hot in the kitchen, right? Like it's that temp is getting up there. So, you know, I expect big things from him. I don't know what that means though, because he also plays linebacker. So to Scott's point about him being like the Amon-Ra of this team, he plays linebacker. So I don't know what those numbers are supposed to look like.
Yeah,
for a linebacker, right? I mean, hopefully he's getting a lot of tackles, getting an occasional sack, getting some TFLs, tackles for loss. What we can expect from him in his first season, but I'm trying not to have too high of expectations, because again, you still play linebacker and you're still going to need a lot of heavy lifting done by that defensive line to keep him clean.
Yeah, that's fair. But here we go, right? We still have a couple weeks. I'm sure we're already probably talking, and they're probably running some plays and practicing for week 1, right? Like, they have to be starting to, don't you think? I mean, I know we're planning for the Steelers, but like, I bet there's parts of practice that are dedicated to game 1, Eagles, like, right, we're going to have to play this way. There's got to be, I mean, they have to talking about it.
Yeah. I mean, to kind of point out the whole player run practice, that was the first thought that came to mind when I first thought about that. Is like, well, if the players are running their own practice, I'm hoping that this means that the coaches are in the back or in the building scheming for Philly, that you're putting all of your effort into making sure that you have the best game plan possible for Philly. Yeah, you want to have a good game plan for Pittsburgh so that you don't go out there and just get exposed. But I mean, we're a couple weeks out from the season. It's all about being ready for Philly, and I hope it's about getting revenge on Philly, because Philly,
44-6,
not good. So,
but 44 is Malcolm Rodriguez's number.
Oh
so I think that means that Malcolm Rodriguez is going to get 4 sacks, 4 tackles for loss, and 4... Okay, it's a good omen.
I can already hear Dr. Detroit typing in this.
You can hear the clack of his keyboard. Haunts your dreams.
You can hear him like, who is this? Just you know,
it's a good omen. You know what?
We'll have a whole episode on it if it does happen.
Yeah.
But
the world, the universe speaks to us. We lose by 44. We get the greatest hidden gem in that. We get the steal of the draft. His number's 44.
Hey man, if it happens, I would love it. I'm not gonna sit here and like whine about it. Like, bring it on if it happens. But
do you guys want like one other thing? I was very surprised. I didn't even know he was going to play James Mitchell. Do you guys have any thoughts?
James Mitchell.
I was excited to see it.
I actually wanted to focus on a couple players after this preseason game, and basically had this question that I threw out to you guys in the chat, which is, has blank done enough to make the team? And I just want to go through like a couple players. Some of them we've already covered, but since we were already talking about James Mitchell, let's start with the tight ends. This was James Mitchell's first game, but he looked really good in limited action.
Yeah, he did.
But he's still in a battle for that, I would say, tight end 3 spot with Zylstra and Devin Funchess. I mean, do you feel like any of those guys have done enough to make the team as of right now? Like, is there anybody that you would plant a flag on as like, oh yeah, that's tight end 3 right now?
Scott?
I thought he was asking you, Gionne, but I will hop in here.
I mean, I can go.
Well, because you brought up Mitchell, so that's what you
said. I guess so. You know, Zylstra played quite well. As he had the very high PFF grade, as Scott pointed out earlier. I guess the question boils down to: do you think Mitchell gets maybe not priority treatment, but the fact that he was just drafted and is a rookie? Do you think that that swings the pendulum in his favor.
I do. Personally, yes.
I do too. And so I can definitely see them, especially like if he came out and just laid an egg, then it was like, okay, he was what? Because he was 6th round?
6th round, yes.
6th round. So yeah, you took a shot on this guy in the 6th. He came out, he laid an egg. So okay, so what? No, not much lost.
No harm, no foul.
Right. So, but he came out and he played really well. He was sure-handed. He blocked well. He set the edge really well and allowed, I think it was Justin Jackson, one of the to kick it outside and get a hefty pickup from the outside. So like he blocked well. He had sure hands. From a 6th round rookie, that's exactly what you want to see. And I think the fact that he is a rookie just drafted, I think it's Mitchell.
Okay, so now Zylstra. Where did Zylstra come from? Like I saw him in the game today, or not today, but when I watched the game against the Colts, he really did pop off the screen a bunch of times for me. Now Mitchell did have some plays, but Zylstra really was a part of the game. I felt like. Where did he come from?
I believe he was on the roster last year.
Yeah, he was.
He got some limited run late in the season last year.
That's right. Okay. So he's been in the system for a year. So he's okay. So I think that this game against Pittsburgh will be good for both of them, right? I think we'll see if Mitchell can hang and what Zylstra can do. I think that this is pretty tight. I think Funchess is kind of out because of his injuries, his injury history. I just think that this team we really do need reliability and to make sure everybody's going to be playing. So I think that will be tough for Funchess to overcome. But I don't know. So that's where I'm at. So I think it's Zylstra. Mitchell, I don't know. I can't play the flag yet.
Gotcha. I was going to say, for me, I'm kind of with John. I'm planting the flag on James Mitchell. I think he really impressed in both pass and run blocking. He had a bad whiff, but then he came back on like the next couple plays and blocked really, really well, showed sure hands. And I think he's what they're looking for behind a TJ Hawkins and behind a Brock Wright, is a guy who can block and go out there and catch the football. Not saying that Zylstra can't, but this is what you drafted James Mitchell to do.
Right.
It's not his fault that he came, like you drafted him injured. So it's not like he got injured in camp.
Right.
You drafted him this way. So
you must have liked what you see.
Well, you have to like what you have seen in college. And I don't want to say that you owe it to him, right? Because everybody has to earn their way. But it would feel kind of silly to me to ding him for his availability when you drafted a guy that was coming off an ACL injury. You knew you had a good idea that he probably wasn't going to be able to participate a ton in camp. Now, I agree with you, Scott, that the Pittsburgh game is going to, clear up a couple things, but I do think the Lions will lean towards keeping their draft pick. Again, not wanting to risk cutting him and losing him. Because now that he's healthy, like you could cut him and potentially lose him.
Oh, for sure.
Right.
So I think they go the safe route, keep the guy that they drafted. And there's a couple other players that we're going to go through on this list. But one of the themes that you're at least going to see from me, from my takes, is that I think they're going to want to keep the guys that they want to invest heavily in when it comes to development. The guys that they believe that they can develop the best.
Makes sense.
And James Mitchell falls into that category for me right now with the tight ends.
So who do you think, Meko, who's your developmental, because you texted, you gave us a little tease about this. Who is your developmental pick for this very controversial wide receiver core? We have Kennedy, Cephas, Benson, Alexander, and Pimpleton sort of all on the bubble.
Kennedy!
It's not Kennedy for me. I'm sorry. For me, it's really going to come down to Benson and Alexander for me, right?
Not even Cephas?
So this is the thing. I think if Cephas makes it because they know what they already have in Cephas. And they feel very confident in, listen, once we get in season, like Cephas will be active on game days. This is the problem that I have with Tom Kennedy. Even if Tom Kennedy were to make the team, I do not believe Tom Kennedy's going to be active on game days. Cephas would be. Trinity Benson would be. Maurice Alexander would probably be your primary kick and punt returner, so he would be active. And I believe if we're talking about development, it's really tight between Benson and Alexander on who they want to invest in more. We already know Brad Holmes traded for Trinity Benson, and Trinity Benson has looked good in camp, and he's even looked good in some preseason games. Like, he can't determine if the play is called for him to get the ball.
Right.
He hasn't dropped passes, so it's not like he's underperforming in that context. But I do believe Cephas makes the team over Kennedy because of just, again, past experience, and they just probably feel a little more comfortable with him. When it comes down to Benson and Alexander, I believe it's going to come down to Maurice Alexander just because of how dynamic he is on kick and punt return. Like, he is lightning in a bottle, and I think they would probably put their eggs in that basket, especially because I don't think they keep Iggy.
That's fair. Oh, God, I just love Kennedy so much. I've loved Kennedy last year. I love Kennedy this year.
He's a preseason superstar. Three preseasons in a row now.
It's his gig.
He threw a touchdown. He threw a touchdown in the game, didn't he?
Oh, that's true. He did last season. Yes, you're right.
You know, I mean, dude can chuck the rock. Maybe he's our fourth quarterback if we need it. You know, I just Kennedy. Yes, he's a preseason rock star, but the guy can run routes and catch the ball, and he's been reliable and consistent, and he's translated that from, you know, it was more in practice last year and less in games, but like so far in the 2 preseason games, he's caught everything. He has made big plays. He's gotten open. I'm just still on the Kennedy bandwagon.
And
so,
that's
again, but I get Meko. I get your point from a coach's standpoint, Scott. That's Dan's standpoint. Like, I just want.
Well, that's why I was gonna. I mean, again, to press you a little bit on this, if you're setting up your active players for a game,
I know what Meko's doing here.
Are you picking Tom Kennedy over Khalif Raymond, or Amon-Ra St. Brown? Are you going to be putting them in the game over those two guys? The answer is no. And because he primarily is going to play in the slot, like, I get it, he's played outside in preseason, but he's playing outside against, no offense, no disrespect to anybody, but like, those are not the starting corners.
Well, I agree. I agree with you. I'm just a Kennedy fan. Okay, it's like,
well, you're not the only one.
But you're not the only one, man.
And
hometown hero.
He's got some moves. I mean, I don't know if. Yeah, I think he probably gets scooped. Right? You're not gonna. I mean, he probably gets scooped. The other thing too to note with this, when you do have Hard Knocks every year, like, teams get to see more of your players, right? So a lot of these guys that we don't think might get scooped will get scooped just because they're getting more airtime, right? Just in general.
Sure.
So that's what kind of stinks for us this year, because a lot of these guys that if we were under the radar and nobody really cares about the Lions, I don't care what's going on over there, we could have, you know, got them after waivers, but Meko, your point makes sense. What do we think about Pimpleton? Right, that dude is fast though too. I mean, he's fast, but like, small. I mean,
I think Pimpleton ultimately is in the same position as Kennedy, where, and Scott, I completely agree with you. I love watching Tom Kennedy. I'm a huge fan, and he can run routes and he can catch the ball, and he is, as Dan Campbell says, Mr. Reliable. But if he can't add any value beyond that, then there are guys who do. Like Maurice Alexander can run routes and can catch the ball, and can also be an electric punt returner. Godwin Igwebuike, what's that?
Or gunner on punt.
Or gunner, yeah. It's like, oh man, and I feel like this is a foreign concept for like Lions fans of like having to cut talented guys, Like, when, granted, I've never been this invested. Sorry, go ahead.
Nothing. I said, especially after last year with our wide receiver room.
Exactly. Like, and maybe it's just because I'm, finally paying attention to, like, really paying attention to preseason, but it seems like Yeah, we're having to cut talented guys off this team, and that's the mark of really good teams or teams that are on the up and up, that are trending upwards. But man, it makes for really good conversations. It makes for very difficult decisions. And because Tom Kennedy's really, really good at what he does, but I don't think he does enough other stuff to make him a valuable asset to this team in the way that Maurice Alexander, Godwin Igwebuike, or Khalif Raymond do.
Watch Kennedy go to Green Bay.
I also just
oh my God,
watch Kennedy go to Green Bay and light it up.
Don't you put that evil on me.
Don't evil on me, Ricky Bobby.
Don't you put that evil.
I'm just saying.
But yeah, so just to lock it in for me, I believe Maurice Alexander has done enough to make this team. And I also believe that Quintez Cephas, despite not playing yet, has done enough in training camp and in prior seasons for the coaching staff to be like, no, we need Q. So
I will stand by. I think I texted this to you guys on game day. That interception that Blau had, where it hit the receivers that popped up, Cephas gets that. Like that doesn't bounce out. Like even though it's into double coverage, it was not a great decision to throw the ball to that player. But dude, Cephas gets that. That's what he does. Like that's why he's on the team. And I think ultimately that's why he makes the team, is because he comes away with that catch.
Yeah.
Okay. Linebackers. Or no, DL.
Oh, okay. DL is Josh. John, you already kind of said your goodbyes to Deshaun.
Right.
Talk about preseason hype.
Oh man, right?
Spring camp hype. That fizzled out quickly. But in the wake of that, Demetrius Taylor and could make this team and be very serviceable in the middle, especially when we're talking about trying to put together a defensive line that's going to stop the run consistently.
Yeah. So did you because you kind of microphone cut out a little bit. So we were talking about Demetrius Taylor being a surprise and he's doing really good. And then were you talking about Bugs or Kaminsky?
Bugs.
Okay, Bugs. Yeah, no. That's who Pride of Detroit had on there, is like that he's done enough and that he's in. I mean, to think just last week I was having veritable panic attacks about what we were going to do on this defensive line without Onwuzurike and Pascal. And then sure enough, literally Bryant emerges.
Yep.
Demetrius Taylor steps up. Like all these guys are taking a step forward. And I mean, yes, it's preseason and yes, these games don't matter, but this whole next man up mindset, it seems like this is what good teams have. And this is what good teams do, or at least teams that are trending up. And it's just great to see it on the Lions. And it's a foreign feeling to feel this way for a Lions team.
No, for sure. And again, I think in the case going back to who I think they want to develop, I think they want to develop a guy like Demetrius Taylor, an undrafted guy that has been solid in camp, has been very, very dominant in camp. So again, a guy that you probably don't want to risk losing out on, and a guy that you're just like, hey, we'll keep him as a depth guy and we'll kind of develop him along the way.
Scotty, questions?
I have no questions, just statements. Yeah, I agree with you guys on Taylor. And Kaminsky, I mean, he just had a great game.
Yeah.
Well,
they say he plays the same way that Hutchins is, relentless.
And that's what we need, and that's what this team, this Lions team, this gritty Lions team wants to be. And that's what Dan said in Hard Knocks, John, you'll see it, but he just wants these guys to keep going. And to be relentless, and you have to be a winner, right? Because you have to be at the end of the games to not make mistakes and keep going and going in order to win that game, so you don't lose it or give it away by mistakes like we have at the end of the game. You will appreciate his pre-meeting speech. It was
nice.
I mean, it was a little cheese, but he made a good point.
One thing that really is, there's the abstract benefit of being relentless and it's grit but that's all intangible abstract. one thing that's very tangible about a relentless player, as we saw in the few downs that Aiden Hutchinson played, when you're relentless, they have to hold your ass. And you draw holding penalties from the offense. And that's incredibly valuable, tangible result to your style of play.
And the only thing that I'll say in regards to Kaminsky, because I do think his play on the field has been very impressive, and at the very least, it's worthy of a practice squad spot. The thing that is working against him is that you still have Julian Okwara, and Austin Bryant has just really kicked the door. And I don't know if you have room for another edge rush guy behind him.
And I think what we don't know too is the way in which, Dan and Deuce are going to, like, where they're going to cut and where they're going to keep, right? If we knew where they wanted to hold on to more, right? Like it would help us organize thoughts too, right?
Like, because you're talking about, like, they're going from next week, they have to go from 80 to 53. Like, that's the cut. And that's a huge cut. And we're probably going to be more wrong than we are right in some of these situations. But I didn't add him on the list, but another guy that's probably in that mix of somebody that's probably going to get cut that just hasn't done enough is James Houston.
Yeah.
Right? Another late round pick from the Lions that he's practice squad bound. He needs more development. He needs more muscle, more just physical traits kind of built up to really be an impactful player for this team down the road.
He looked huge when they drafted him.
He did, yeah.
But
he's stocky.
Not as much on the field.
He's stocky. Even Meko, he's stocky. No, but look.
Yeah, he has long arms and he has like a big torso. But like you look at him, especially against this Colts game, he gets swallowed.
Oh yeah,
by tackles. Like he tries to go like down the chest of tackles, or even if he tries to get around, like he doesn't have quite the size to make that transition or to get around tackles
right
as easily as some of the other players on this team do.
What's the whole Jayshon Cornell effect again? I mean, the dude put up the dude led in like every exercise. Like he was the number one spot on the leaderboard for the entire defensive line, and yet he's the lowest ranked player according to PFF as the stats you read earlier. So,
just this game, yeah,
a lot of this stuff kind of just you'd think it would. I mean, and this is what's so funny about this stuff is you'd think so much of this stuff would translate, but just sometimes it doesn't, and technique leaves you scratching your head as to why.
Technique is still technique, instinct, and staying true to fundamentals probably and is a key
fundamental indicator. And mindset. I mean, look at Aiden, right? I mean, even Aaron Glenn was just like complimenting Aiden of like, kind of like, thank goodness you're what we thought you were.
Yeah.
Right.
Oh, so this ties in. I want to touch on this. I've been meaning to bring this up, and we're running long, and so I'm going to say this as succinctly as I can. But this is about fundamentals, because I teased it earlier. One thing that I think, so Dan Campbell in his presser before day 2 of the Colts practice. So there was that, Lions unequivocally got dominated day 1, and then so he gives a press conference before each day, before day 2 with the Colts. He talked about a lot of the guys, they come out here and we just drill fundamentals, and then you come out against a new opponent. It's actually got on an opposing team, so you're not playing against a teammate, and the ego kind of takes over a little bit, and those fundamentals that you've been working on just go right out the window because you're so excited and you want to prove yourself, and so you start playing a little bit more from a place of maybe like from a place of ego as opposed to a place of like, this is my gap, no matter what else, like this is my assignment. And no matter what else is going on, I think that's why they value Rodrigo so much, is because he always knows his assignment. And I think this is really pulls into focus of why he's so universally praised even outside of Detroit. Is he sticks to the plan regardless of what else is going on, and that comes back to the fundamentals. And I think in that press conference, Dan Campbell emphasized returning to the fundamentals. Okay, those were first day jitters. we just got to get back to the fundamentals that we've been doing. And that could have been seen as coach speak. And I think if the Lions came out and got dominated again day 2, yes, coach speak, 100%. But they came out and they were the ones who dominated day 2. So I think that speaks to the fact of this is something that they are installing. This is part of the culture. This is that grit, that attention to detail that they have been going. I think this will translate to the regular season. It's just they needed to get over that hump of it's one thing to have the fundamentals when you are lined up across the same person every day for two straight weeks. And then you jump to being lined up across a person who is on a different team, another professional, maybe even a little bit better than you. And so it's very easy to see how that stuff does go out the window and you forget about it. But they reined in, they refocused, and they were the ones to dominate day 2. I don't think that's an accident. And that is something I absolutely think translates to the regular season.
Well said.
But anyway.
Okay,
linebackers.
So before I was gonna say let's get into these linebackers so we can wrap up this episode.
Yeah.
All right. So we in this situation we have Jarrad Davis, Anthony Pittman, and Josh Woods, I believe.
Josh Woods, yeah.
Has
do we want to throw Chris Board? Do we want to throw Chris Board in here? Let's throw Chris Board in here because Dion Hamilton got cut today, so let's throw Chris Board in here just for kicks. Of those 4 guys, I'll make this easier. Who do you think hasn't done enough to make this team? John, let's start.
It kills me to say, but Jarrad Davis.
Really?
For the same reason as like Kennedy. I mean, they seem to be super high on Pittman. They seem to be very high on Pittman. Pittman seemed to play quite well. Josh Woods, it seems like he's flashed. Jarrad Davis has looked better in coverage than he ever has, which is great, but to be honest, it's not saying much. I don't know. It's tough.
Hold on. Elaborate on that point. What do you mean?
Whoa.
By that?
What?
You said that he's improved in coverage, but not by much. Where that's not.
Sorry. So I may have misspoke. He has improved in coverage, but from what he has been in the past, that's not saying very much.
Yeah, so what does that mean though? Because improvement is improvement. Like,
I mean, that's fair, and that's something I've even said. So good to be putting my feet to the fire here, and that's good.
What I'm really trying to say is
what I'm really trying to say is I don't know enough to make. I'm just talking.
So, to me personally, the person who hasn't done enough, and I get it a lot, I'm probably in the minority here. It's Anthony Pittman to me. I don't get it. I really don't.
I'm with Meko here immediately.
John, like, I've read the same things you've read, and everybody is singing the praises of Anthony Pittman. And I watch, and I'm looking, and I'm trying to understand what it is that he is doing so well that is so irreplaceable over what Jarrad Davis does. And the only thing I can think of is that I think some fans, some writers are still only looking at Jarrad Davis as a middle linebacker, in my opinion. That people are stuck at looking at him as only a guy that can play in the middle, and why do you need another guy to play in the middle when you have Alex Anzalone and Derek Barnes? But I believe that Jarrad Davis can do everything that Anthony Pittman is doing just as well. If you're putting Anthony Pittman on the edge and you want him to rush the quarterback, Jarrad Davis can do that. So you even said it yourself. He has improved, in my opinion, immensely in coverage because he was a liability in coverage when he was here.
I mean, he had a pass breakup this last game. He had a pass breakup that was unheard of.
Yeah, it's not even just. I mean, there's the pass breakup, and then there's the simple fact of this. Whenever I've turned on these preseason games so far, and look, if things go awry against Pittsburgh, then fine, they go awry. But what we used to see from Jarrad Davis in coverage when he was with the Lions the first time around is that teams would pick on Jarrad Davis, like specifically put tight ends
on him
and go right at it. And I'm not seeing that. I'm not seeing Jarrad Davis get picked on in coverage and him looking lost in zones or him not knowing where he's supposed to be. So I look at Anthony Pittman and it's like, okay, well, if you're telling me that what Jarrad Davis is going to have to do then is cover kicks and cover punts and then occasionally rush the passer, I'm sorry, I think he does that really well.
I agree.
So to me, Jarrad Davis has done enough. I think Chris Board has done enough. Josh Woods, I mean, I don't know. Josh Woods hasn't really flashed to me either, to be frank. He's also like repping with the third string. So like, that's probably why.
Right. And I think that in the moment, and to me, I'm just supporting Meko in that, I just want to come from a different angle for 1 second and say, the guy at the end of the game who ran over to talk to AG was Davis, right? For that final stop. I mean, he was the guy. He's like, JD, get over here. And that's who they called over. So,
not just called over, but told him to set the tone. Like,
right. Like, so if you're telling him
get these guys together.
Okay. And then for Dan Campbell be like, to win the game. This is the game. Like, we know it's the game, Dan. It's the game. But that to me, they see him as a leader a little bit, right? Maybe there's some of that too. Because he's been here, he's gone and he's come back. He's left and come back. I mean, that experience has to help motivate you to get it right, do it right. I mean, to your point, I mean, I've seen immense improvement, and that is because of the coaching and his effort. So, so I think that he's done enough. So I'm there too. But I think that's it, right, boys? I think that's that'll do it. That'll just about do it for today.
Yes, sir. It's a long one. So
Woo, yikes. I was thinking it was going to be short too. Like,
me too.
So, all right. So anyway, well, thank you again. Thank you guys. That was fun. John, enjoy the show. I think you'll be watching it tonight.
Yes.
Yep. So, again, please don't forget to like, follow, subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts. Head to Questionable Tees for all the new items that are coming in the next week. Those are here. We are putting the final touches on them. We are very excited. Those that have seen are very excited. You'll potentially see them in some cool places as well. So again, thank you guys. Thanks to my family. Thanks to the crew. Shout out to all my friends. I want to give a shout out to John Wargo. I just want to give him a shout out. He's doing the work right now, and he knows what that means. And I just want to give him a shout out from the Questionable Podcast. We're thinking about you. We love you, man. Get your work in. And, again, thank you to guys and the family and friends and the crew and everybody listening. Thank you for your patience. Thank you for your support. We are excited to be back in 16 days away from opening day. We are close. It's 16
very close.
or 15. It is close. So anyway, having said that, Meko?
Yeah, got to give a shout out to the fam. Big shout out to my wife for being a true champ and being a supportive wife and going to see the new Dragon Ball Z movie with me.
Nice.
She's more than I deserve.
I wanted that one.
Shout out to my girls. And then, again, huge thank you to everybody that likes, comment, shares, and, subscribes to the Questionable Podcast. We appreciate you.
Gionne.
As always, thanks to my wife and you guys, especially for pointing out that I swallowed loudly, because that's been a long time. No, that's been a long time. I've been told multiple times that I chew loudly, and so I'm very self-conscious about it. And my wife has even commented that I chew loudly, and so it's something. So, like, I'm like conscious.
Tell her
every time.
Tell her it's only going to get louder the older we get. Just tell her, just wait 10 years and see how loud it is then.
So now fans of the show know about my narrow feet and my loud chewing. They're getting all the juicy.
We need to offer I need our fans to start like coming up with t-shirt ideas for us and for Gionne.
Well, I feel like it like over the, because we know what, like 60 of these things now. So I feel like over the course of 60 episodes, the things that you kind of know of, like the little like eccentricities that you know about me that get peppered in throughout maybe every other episode, are enough to sort of establish me as quite neurotic.
Oh my gosh. Okay.
All right. But that said, thank you to my wife for putting up with all my neuroses. That's pretty fantastic.
That's it. That's it. I think that's it, boys. All right, you guys. Thank you for hanging out with us for a little bit. Again, please like, follow, subscribe. This is the Questionable Podcast. Out.